Our guest on the show today, Jill Young, is a master at helping businesses get unstuck with a framework she specializes in with her company, Traction First. She walks us through some of that framework, and you'll see really quickly how it can apply to any size of business that is focused on growth. Jill, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, awesome. Tell the audience who the heck you are and what do you do?
Well, I will start with the basics. My name is Jill Young, and sometimes I forget that. So my name is Jill Young, and what I do is I work with high-performance leadership teams. We actually create high-performance leadership teams in entrepreneurial companies. So the way we do that is that we use a tool called the Entrepreneurial Operating System, because we really strongly believe that every company needs a coach, they need a system, and they need a peer group. So what we do at Traction First is we really bring that coach and the system into their company.
Awesome. And where does this sort of framework begin? What is the basis for that?
So the Entrepreneurial Operating System was designed by a gentleman, his name is Gino Wickman, and I like to think of Gino as a business scientist. So what Gino did was for several years, 10 plus years, he experimented with the best business tools that are available to us. So what Gino did is he really, he took these business tools and he simplified them and he put them into a system for entrepreneurial companies. So much of the time the tools were really built for large enterprise type companies,
Sure.
right? So we just brought them all down into the system, and now it's called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's described in the book Traction by Gino Wickman. I think that's actually behind me here on the screen.
Yes.
We actually have 3 books out now. So Traction was the first book, which is really the business Bible for us. It just describes the whole system that we use. Then there's also Get a Grip, and it's really just a story of a company that it implemented the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Oh, cool.
Some of us, like me and my brain, we learn more by stories. So that
Big
was
time.
really good. Entrepreneurs especially, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember, I love those examples. It's great to have the hand, so basically both books, right?
Yeah,
but
both
to have
books.
the lesson and then that story, because the story is what sticks.
Yep,
And that's what you recall
That's
later.
the example, exactly. And then the third book that just came out in the spring is Rocket Fuel, and it really talks about the relationship between what we call a visionary type entrepreneur and an integrator type entrepreneur. And so where those two things mesh together, you really create rocket fuel to
Nice.
really help your company take off. So that's proprietary to EOS. So we're
That's
very
wonderful.
excited about that.
Well, I want to dive deep into that system, because I think what you're providing for companies is so valuable in that. But I want to before we do that, I want to go backwards a little bit in your past, and what led you to this? What led you to that system, and linking up with the whole thing, and what's been your background to all this?
Great. Well, I started at the beginning, the very beginning, almost the very beginning. I was 8 years old, and I was growing up in a very entrepreneurial family. So I had, parents had businesses, grandparents had businesses, great-great-grandparents have businesses. So it really just does run in my DNA.
Oh, yeah.
So I had that nature side of me, but then I also had that nurture side of me, because I was really, I like to say I was raised by the wolves, right? Raised by the wolves, the small business wolves, where most little girls were growing up with dolls and friends, and I grew up in the trenches of small business, so that's all I knew. In fact, some of my greatest childhood memories just with my family, and especially with my dad, are of him taking me with him to visit the CPA and to go visit the attorney. And I remember them looking at me like, why is there a little girl in the office? But I learned so much. When I was 14 years old, really started to dabble in my first values initiative for the company. I was 14. I mean, who does that, right?
Goodness, yeah.
When I was 15, I was signing payroll checks. When I was 16, Dad let me mess with the pricing structure of the company. So, I'm only 40, but sometimes I do like to say I've had 32 years of experience. So that's where really the love of entrepreneurialism came for me, and just what drives me every day. But
It's in the
then
blood.
it is. It's in the blood. It's in the blood. So, kind of fast forward a few years, we sold the major family businesses when I was 24-ish.
And what were those?
We had several of them.
Okay.
The last one that I'm speaking about here was childcare centers. We had 4 large childcare centers.
Nice.
And so we sold those. My sister actually kept one. Anecdotal story, because I do have ADD, so I'll get off track. I actually got to go back there for their 20-year anniversary just a few weeks ago, speak to the staff there, and really just witness all of the great things that I started when I was 20 are still going on. And it was just a beautiful moment. So, got out of that and thought, I really need to find out where the secret sauce is to how to run companies. So I got into some bureaucratic companies because I thought, well, for sure, that's where all the secrets are. And they're not. Didn't last there very long.
Bogged down in lots of meetings.
Exactly. I'm like, what in the world? Why aren't you guys doing all of this that I know how to do, right?
That you were doing 8, yeah.
From the time I was 8. So then I decided that the university was the way to go, and I was going to learn all there is to know about business from the university. So went and grabbed myself an MBA, learned a ton doing that, while I was also working, having babies, all of that fun stuff. But still, all the answers were not there.
Sure.
So fast forward a few years, and I find myself as president of a CPA firm. Okay, for all of those of you who are looking at me thinking, you're not a CPA, you're right, I'm not. But I ended up being the president of the CPA firm just because of my business skills, just have a knack for running business. But we were hitting a ceiling. We were trying to grow, and I was trying to keep all of the balls in the air, right? I was trying to please the clients and please the staff and open early and close late and do the marketing and do the billing. I was just trying to keep all of these balls in the air, and we literally hit a ceiling. And what happened, what woke me up, was that I started to drop some balls, right? Do any of us ever do that? We start to drop the ball. And I confided in a friend who actually ran a financial services friend, and he says, I have a book for you. And that's when he gave me Traction.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So as I read the book, the light bulb turned on for me, and I said, this is it. I didn't find it in the bureaucracy. I found more of it in small business than I thought I knew. I didn't find it at the university. I found it in this simple system that was very real and very results oriented. So I read the book, started implementing the system at the firm, also started handing tools to our clients, and I just started to see some major changes.
Wow, so you really started immediate kind of results through this?
Exactly. Just that when you start to get everybody on the same page and you start to talk about those 90-day goals and really just describe what everybody is responsible for and what authorities we have, it just starts to move the company forward. So at one point, I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, oh my goodness, this is all I want to do. It's so powerful. It just connects with my passion for entrepreneurs. I really felt like the work I was doing at the CPA firm just helped a slice of their business, but this really helped their whole business. Oh, yeah. So I stepped out and have not looked back. I'm very, very busy, very fulfilled, and really working at my unique ability, which is what I want for my clients.
Oh, sure.
For the entrepreneurs to really work at their unique ability. So
what gave you, after having your eyes open and seeing and having this, like, this is it, you feel it, right?
Yeah, you do, right?
So,
you feel it.
So what was that transition to basically step out and say, this is what I'm going to do now, and then how did you structure teaching this to other companies and things and going out into what you're doing now?
So I think there's 2 parts to your question. Really kind of what was inside me to say I'm going to go do this. And the thing you need to know about me, on my Kolbe, which if anybody ever knows Kolbe, I'm a high quick start. And then in my Strength Finders, I'm an activator. So it does not take me very long once I've made a decision just to go ahead and do it. And I think a lot of that happens with entrepreneurs. Sure. We are risk takers. we are crazy, right? Are we a little bit crazy? We are a little bit crazy, which is really fun for me to work with entrepreneurs
Right.
because my life is full of fun all day long, right?
Right.
Working with crazy people, crazy
Right.
fun people.
But it takes a little bit because you can't break out of normal drudgery without a little bit of crazy.
Without a little bit of crazy, right? I totally agree. And then a big part of the comfort of stepping out on my own is that I was not creating a product from scratch. So the entrepreneurial operating system is already there for us. So I knew that I was going to run my own company on the system, right? The cobbler's children has got to have shoes.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So I knew exactly at that point how to run my own great business. But then also that I just knew that this was going to bring so much success to so many people that it was very easy to make that transition.
Nice.
Very, very easy to make that transition. The second part of your question was how did I structure this so that I would take it
Exactly.
to other companies? Well, that's again another part of the beauty. So I do not execute well. I am a visionary, like many of you. We have big, big ideas, but taking them down to the ground is really, really rough. So I knew I was not going to create this system from scratch. I'm going to use Gino's system,
Sure.
which he gladly trained me, which was very nice. So I actually visit with him once a quarter. So,
great.
ongoing, sharpening the saw.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, how did I structure? We just have a very proven process. Gino's done all of that for us. He's pulled all of those levers, experimenting, being that business scientist. So I have a very defined process that I take clients through. So I normally work with clients in full day sessions.
Okay.
They're always off-site, and I really act as a coach and a facilitator and a mentor.
So you pull them out of their comfort zone. You're not meeting in their boardroom.
No,
You're
you're
bringing
right.
them out.
Absolutely. And there's really psychology behind that, Jason. Number one is to just, I really have a big task of getting the leaders to stop thinking about working in their business and getting them to work on their business. So pulling them out really helps
Yeah,
that as
for
well.
sure. And then walk me through some of that. And I guess if there is one, what's sort of a typical business, at least size? Because I know you work across multiple industries and everything, but what's a typical sort of business size that you're working with?
Sure. So the beauty about the model, just like what you said, and I'll actually show you the model here in a little bit, but
Okay.
like you said with the model, it is very cross-industry. So I have blue-collar industry that I work with that is, land surveying and concrete and plumbing and, electrical contracting. I have professional service firms that I work with, like PR companies and dentists and CPAs. And I have, just a myriad of other clients. So it is very cross-industry. But the place where the model really, really works is, well, let me back up a little bit. The model works for anybody.
Okay.
It absolutely works for anybody. So, I have a 3-person company. It works for my company. But we have companies that have 4,000 employees. It's working for them.
Oh, wow.
Where the
Okay.
sweet spot is, though, Jason, is usually when you're in a very high growth mode or you want to be in a high growth mode. So companies who want growth, this absolutely works.
And that's sort of the entrepreneurial part of
Exactly,
that
yes.
aspect.
But there's a difference between building a business and creating a job for yourself. And I have this conversation with brand new entrepreneurs all the time. So they'll come to me and say, hey, Jill, I have an idea. I want to start this up. I'll talk to them a little bit about it. And when really we get down to the heart of the matter, they're trying to just create a job for themselves.
Right.
They don't really want it to be scalable. They just really want a lifestyle business. And so this model probably is not for them.
Yeah.
So that's
It's
where
okay
I
if they
say
wanna
growth.
do
Sure.
that. It's just a
sure. Use a
different
handful of
animal.
tools. You just probably don't need it. It might even waste a lot of your time if you just have a lifestyle, one person solo entrepreneur business.
Sure.
If you really want to grow, then this really, really works for you. The other part of where this really works for companies is if they really have a human element. So if you really, really love and value people, this will work for you. And here's why. everything we do is very simple. Everything we do, I always tell my clients, I promise you I will not bring you anything fluffy. And everything we do is very high trust. So we're going to be reporting numbers on a scorecard. Nobody's going to be diving into those numbers to make sure that you didn't lie, right? So it has to be a very high trust. So
This is
lots
for
of
you,
growth,
so just, yeah.
lots of growth, high trust, and then it's really going to work for you.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so, because I think, I want to have you walk us through some of this framework, because I think it's so incredibly valuable. Because you and I spoke last week, we had a little cheat session. So I know some of the background. Some of the folks have no idea coming on, but so I know how valuable this can be. But it's also, those folks who, like you say, it may not be someone who wants to keep that lifestyle business or solopreneur, but if somebody is that single entrepreneur who wants to grow into something bigger, I think it could be so valuable to know this in the beginning, right?
Right. So I absolutely. So we're all going to start out as one person, right? Almost every company does. It's like one person with an idea. So we start there. So let me just clarify my answer. If you want to start there and stay there, then this might not be for you.
Right.
If you want to start there and go somewhere with it, absolutely. And so 2 really tips that I would give people like that. Hey, I'm starting my business. It's me right now, but I want to keep my eyes on the prize or eyes on the horizon for growth. When you read the book, when you start to look at the tools, the thing that you'll want to remember is that right now you're creating habits. Right now you're creating habits for the future. And so those two habits that I would wish for you, entrepreneur, would be that you would be very disciplined, that you would get yourself on a system and a schedule and be accountable to yourself. It's very, very hard to be accountable to ourselves. But if you can do that, you're going to really get over those speed bumps a lot better. So discipline and accountability, if you can really start with those 2 habits, you're just setting yourself up for success when you start to use these tools.
Well, sure, because it's a lot easier to do it. As hard as it is, it's a lot easier in some ways than when you are in growth mode, because boom, something's taking off, right?
Exactly. Then you just get swamped with what we call traction. Now, we love traction, but traction without vision is randomness. So when you're just getting a lot of orders and you're sending them out the door and taking more orders and sending them out the door, pretty soon your business has grown to a place where you don't recognize it. You didn't decide to go there. So if you have that discipline and accountability and your vision in your head right from the very beginning, you're much less
You're not going to
it's not as easy to be swayed,
Yeah.
right? It's not as easy to be swayed because you see your clear direction.
Oh,
So
yeah.
using these tools from the very beginning are very, very good disciplines for a company to learn and know and to start off on the right foot.
Yeah, I love that. And so walk us through some of what that is. What is some of that framework, if you will?
Sure. So in the beginning, I said, we really believe strongly that you need a coach, a peer group, and a system. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through the model at a very high level, of course, and
Sure.
all of this is in the book.
Okay.
There's videos on the website. There's all kinds of freeware out there because we really do want to educate everybody on this. So it really starts with a discovery. So the discovery in the model is that business owners are dealing with 187 things all day long.
Okay.
But to the degree that we can just get very simplified and we can focus on 6 key components, all of those 187 things, they just kind of have a way of melting away. They're not important, or they just get taken care of at the foundation.
So is it kind of the same 180 things may be there, but you're categorizing them into sort of 6 areas?
Sure, and it's a little bit of magic, if we can use that word,
Sure.
where things just start to fall into place. And I don't like to use this word, but it really seems almost effortless once you have your foundation built. Once you're taking care of things that matter at its foundation instead of just duct tape and twine all over the place, right? Hodgepodge puzzle pieces of tools together. So let me just tell you what those 6 key components are. I think that will help the rest of our discussion.
Yes.
So the 6 key components that we really want businesses to strengthen, and that's what my goal is, to help them strengthen these 6 key components. At the very top, we have vision. So vision at a high level, it's an overused term, but we absolutely need to know where we are going. We need to have all of our energy, all of our kilowatt hours of energy focused in the same direction. And we start that with the leadership team. So many times I'll get phone calls, hey Jill, can you come teach my employees about? Or hey Jill, can you come do something motivational for our staff? Or teach them these concepts? No, because we start with the leadership team.
Gotcha.
As the leadership team goes, so goes the company. So we absolutely have to get them on the same page with the vision. And I have tools that deal with the vision component, but that's really what we're talking about, getting on the same page with the vision.
Any organization it's absolutely top down. You can feel how they are from the top down.
And here's what happens when the leadership team is not on the same page. And I've seen this.
Sure.
The leadership team's not on the same page, and so the employees, mid-level managers, they stop. They're just hesitant to move forward because they don't know if I'm following this person's rules or that person's ideas. I don't know if I need to meet your expectations or your expectations. And so instead of just going forward, they just have a natural tendency to stop. And how are you going to move your company forward and grow your company when people in your company are just hesitant?
Yeah, there's no
so that's
way.
a huge, huge no-no. We all got to get on the same page as the leadership team first.
Sure.
So that's the vision component.
Okay.
Second key component is people. So in order to reach our vision, we've got to have people in our company. We need the right people in the right seats. And that's different for your company and it's different for my company, but we need to discover what that is and then get them in the right seats. If you have the wrong people in your company, but they're very productive, and you've met with people, you know people like that.
Sure.
What you're doing is you're building culture on this end, and those toxic people in your company are just chipping away at it at the other end.
Yeah.
And again, it stops your company from growing. There's no growth right there. So we've got to get the right people, then we've got to get them in the right seats.
And sometimes it's worse too because you don't know that your foundation is being chipped away until it's too late.
That's right. And we call that, we're sweeping it under the rug because 9 times out of 10, the leadership team does know that's happening and they're ignoring it. They're ignoring it because that toxic person is getting good results, but those results are not worth keeping that toxic person in the company. Every single time that I've coached a leadership team to let their toxic people go, it has worked for the company and it's just released cogs in the wheels. So
Awesome.
It absolutely works. Big believer.
So we've got vision, we've got people.
People. Next key component is data. So this one's simple. We just need to run our company on objective, real-time data. It takes out all of the subjective, it takes out all of the egos and the feelings and the politics. We just run our company on data. And so what happens there is when you have very clear vision, you've got the right people in the right seats, and you are running your company on data instead of egos and feelings and victim mentality or anything like that, your issues stick out like a sore thumb. So any dysfunction that is happening in the company is we're just shining a light on it. Absolutely shining a light on it. And that's the 4th key component is issues. So issues is just simply is that we are, first of all, we're calling them out. We're saying, hey, this is an issue for our company. We're not sweeping them under the rug or keeping them under the table. So we've got to call them out, and then we just absolutely have to solve them. We've got to be good predictors, good deciders. Is that even a word, decider?
Sure.
I don't know.
Sounds good.
Good decision makers. I always make up words. I
There
make
you
up
go.
a couple words in each session. So
Just trademark it, and it's good.
there you go, right? Put it in the spell check.
Right.
That is a word. So that's our issues component. We just need to be very good at solving our issues, just making decisions. So the discipline here is making a decision is better than making no decision at all. Because what are you doing when you don't make a decision? You're holding your company back. So you can start to see how all of these key components are really designed to move the company forward.
Absolutely.
Next key component is process. We just need to run our company on systems. Makes things scalable. This is where you find profit. makes things easier, right? We just live in a
Sure.
calm company instead of just trying to recreate the wheel all the time. And we're able to really train our people better.
Oh yeah.
And then, of course, it's just more fun because you can do all of the major stuff, just runs by systems. And then the leaders especially get to spend their thinking time on higher order tasks,
Oh, yeah.
strategy, and where we're going next.
Right, that's the only possible way. Because just like you found when you were running the CPA company, there was no way you would have time to think about something creative and a
Right.
new way to do something.
Yep, because I was just bogged down in just keeping the doors open, just
Right.
keeping everybody happy. So exactly. And then the last key component is usually the weakest link, and it's the traction component. And traction just simply means getting things done every day. When we have a lot of vision, but we don't get anything done, there's no execution, there's no traction, it's just hallucination. It's just living in a fantasy land, right?
Right.
So in the traction component, that's where we really learn to be disciplined and accountable. We learn to live in cycles, 90-day cycles, weekly cycles, yearly cycles, and you just have to keep on going in this rhythm that I teach you to stay
Nice.
disciplined and accountable.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think you alluded to this, or you mentioned this earlier, that there's the 6 components are definitely a specific order to them too, is how you go through them, correct?
How we go through them. So there is a very defined process. However, it kind of skips around the model a lot.
Okay.
So each one of the key components has 2 tools that we deal with. However, I will say that I do things a little bit backwards from maybe when you've worked with a different coach or a different system. We always work on our traction tools first.
Okay.
And every time I get pushback on this, like, Jill, how do we even set goals, or how do we even learn how to have a meeting or put together this accountability chart if we don't know where we're going, if we don't have our vision solid?
Sure.
Well, I do tell clients you only need to live in this world for 30 days with me, right? But I teach the traction tools first, because if we did vision first, then they would leave me, they would go back into their company, and they would have no idea how to act on that vision. So I teach the tools first, the traction tools first. I liken it to teaching them how to ride their bike in the cul-de-sac before I send them out onto the street. So we're just simply creating good habits at that point.
Okay.
Create your good habits before you start to really solidify the vision. And again, I only make them wait about 30 days. But it really, really works, because the vision is the fun stuff and the fluffy stuff, and it's exciting and it's kind of pie in the sky. But if you can't bring that down to the ground and have some traction, it's just going nowhere, right?
Wow,
So we start with traction.
Yeah, that is backwards from what you usually get.
But it works. So that's why we do it. So
Well,
we
I
only do
believe it.
things that work.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I can see that. I like how you explain that. That's great. So when you go and work with companies, what state are they usually in when they're calling you?
So very good question, because I've kind of started to collect some data of my own, because I love data, and I've really found that they're in one of a handful of categories. What I get a lot of is they're frustrated with their people, and they talk about accountability. They'll say things like, I've told them 100 times and they're still not doing it. So they're frustrated with people, which we have a people component, right? So that's something that we can really start to fix. The other thing that they're frustrated with is control. They're feeling like their company has got just really grown to the point where it's out of control, where they really don't know everything that's going on. And so we can obviously help them with that as well when we put in this system.
Sure.
They're concerned with their profits. So whereas before they might have been profitable, now like overhead is eating them up, things are going out the door, they're really not sure exactly why they're not being profitable anymore, but we go in and we look at that as well. And then here's a fun one. They have tried everything. So they've read this book and that book and this puzzle piece, and they've been to this lecture, and they try that and they try this. And what's happening in their company is organizational whiplash. Visionary runs in and he goes, we're going to do it this way. And everybody goes, wow, that's cool. And then he runs in a week later and he goes, now I read this book and I want everybody to read this. Wow, that's cool. And so when I come into the company, I really have to prepare the leadership team. This is not whiplash. We're staying here. So we are committing to this, and this is not something that we just try.
Yeah.
So I ask my clients to commit to this system for 2 years, because
Nice.
there are going to be muddy valleys, and I pull them through the valleys, because before it gets better, it gets worse.
Sure.
Because we pull out a lot of ugly issues that have maybe been, skeletons in the closet for a long time. But I can't help unless we get the issues on the table. But that's really the reason they call.
That's great. And so go into that role a little bit, because you have a business partner with you in this, right?
Right.
And you have two very different roles. I think you started to talk about that in the beginning, because you are the vision person and let's get this rolling
Sure.
and stuff. But you also you have a very specific role, and she has a very specific
Right.
role. So what is
Right.
what's the differentiation there?
So it's really interesting that you ask, because I actually just left a meeting with her where my role in the company is I'm the visionary. I come up with the new ideas. I say, hey, I think I should sit down with Jason and talk to him, right? And then she runs it through her filter of, is this the right thing to do? Is this opportunity cost? Is this the best use of Jill's time? And it's a really good balance. But what we do is we kind of take those unique abilities, my visionary tendencies, her integrator tendencies, and then we actually use them to serve our clients. So, for instance, I have to say really hard things, or I get to say really hard things to CEOs, entrepreneurs, presidents of companies, owners of companies. And sometimes people will tiptoe around them and not say the hard things, but they're actually paying me money to say the hard things.
Yeah.
So sometimes I tear them down a little bit. And we cry together, and I've had them throw chairs before, not at me, but
That's
just
good.
in frustration, right? Like, how did I not know this? But when it all comes full circle, it's thank you, Jill. Thank you for
Nice.
being strong enough to put up with my crap, to really pull those things out of, those issues out that maybe I haven't addressed before, or call me out on my bad behavior. So I do that right there in session with everybody. With everybody in the room, we get really raw and vulnerable, very open and honest with people. But then Julie has this kind of flip side of her role, whereas I'm pulling everything out and kind of calling people on the carpet. Julie's a Strength Finders coach. And
Okay.
so for our clients that have been run through the ringer with me,
Right.
Julie then can go in on an individual level and then just really say, now that you can see everything, there's a Johari window tool that we use sometimes, but now that you can see everything that other people see, how are we going to use your strengths, executive, right? Business
Right.
owner, whoever, how are we going to use your strengths to get you in a unique ability to where you are being very, very productive, the company is getting their biggest bang for their buck out of your salary, and you are happy. So I kind of shake them up. She kind of puts them back together. She's an amazing coach, by the way.
That's
Amazing
fantastic.
coach.
Well, I love this. I think this is so much value here, and I know it's so much deeper and so many levels that we
We
could.
just kind of scratch the surface.
Yeah.
But you get the gist.
Absolutely. So what's next for you? What are you? How are you evolving in your life, career, and everything with all of this?
Thank you for asking. So just like any visionary entrepreneur, we're always thinking about the next thing. right?
Exactly.
We're always thinking about the next thing. I absolutely love what I do. And so I am going to answer your question, but I got to tell you a funny story. I got off the plane a couple of weeks ago, and I had 5 sessions in 1 week.
Goodness.
That's atypical. I only really need to do that 5 or 6 times a year. But my body was exhausted.
Oh, I
I was
bet.
pulling my suitcase down, had my little Chuck Taylors on because I never travel in heels. That's crazy. And I thought to myself, I am physically exhausted. I cannot take one more step because I put all of my energy into my sessions, right? But then the other thought came to me and I said, but I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier. I'm just filled with just ultimate joy because
great.
I'm making such a difference in entrepreneurs' life. I'm a patriot. I love America. I love the USA. I love freedom. I love capitalism. So now the next thing that I want to do to just expand that joy, really selfishly for myself, is I just want to share the message with more people. So the way I'm going to do that is I do more speaking engagements,
Okay.
and share these tools. And really, in about an hour and a half of a keynote or a breakout session, I can really teach the tools at a very basic level to any business owner, that they can then, armed with the book and the tools I send them, they can run their company on the entrepreneurial operating system and really not ever even have to talk to me.
Wow.
So it's an amazing thing. It's a very help first. We give. Traction First, one of our values is we help first. We always give more than we get. And so I'm really excited to start doing more of those. So I do small groups where maybe a peer group of business owners is having something, has a breakout session or a meeting. I do those. We get in a little more depth, but I also do keynote engagements for 4,000 people, like I did in Las Vegas. So,
Oh, nice.
So I'm really looking forward to just sharing the message and sharing the enthusiasm and the tools that will really help businesses move forward to support our country.
Oh, yeah.
It's the only way to go.
I love it. I love it. What's the best way for folks to get in touch with you and follow along with what you're doing?
Very good. So I'm a texter.
Okay.
So go ahead and text me. I've got a phone
Great.
number. Everybody can have it, right? 817-372-0183.
Nice.
And like all the rest of your audience, I work 24 hours a day. Is that a good thing? Probably not. Sometimes I work half days, just 12, right? 12
Yeah.
hours a day, occasionally. So that's great. You can also go to the website. There's some videos there. You can. The website is www.tractionfirst.com.
Oh,
And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. So many, many different ways.
Perfect.
But I'm happy to talk.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. I'm excited to help the community.
Awesome.